It might surprise you to know that this is really hard to do well. I'm Nick Rains from Leica Academy Australia, and in this video I'm going to show you how the new firmware upgrade version 2.0 for the Leica SL2-S can help you get it right first time, every time. The Leica SL2-S was always designed with video in mind because it's got a lot of features that are not available in other Leica cameras. But this new firmware upgrade version 2.0 adds one particular feature which I'm thinking you might find quite useful. It's called follow focus, but what that really means is it's a focus pull. Now, you may wonder why that's a big deal, but if you imagine in the movies when they've got two people talking, have you noticed how the focus goes from one person to the next as they're talking? That's a focus pull, and it's surprisingly hard to do well. And in the movie industry, there are people whose entire jobs it is to pull focus, and they do it manually and often without even looking through a viewfinder. They have everything measured out and marked, and they're making that focus rack change just through experience and skill. The problem is that if you do it badly, you end up hunting for the focus point. And if you're focusing manually for stills, it doesn't really matter because you're taking the still when it's in focus. But in video, if you overshoot your focus point, you have to then come back and maybe overshoot it slightly more, and you end up hunting for that focus point, which looks dreadful in the film, the final film. What you want is for your focus to change and then stop precisely where you want it to be and not move any further. And that's difficult. It's one of the reasons that a lot of cinematographers or even normal photographers shooting video for whatever reason use mechanical lenses for their cine cameras so that they can focus with a mechanical system. Autofocus is fine if it hits it first time, which it may or may not do. But if you use autofocus to do a focus pull and it misses the focus, you may find it racks through the entire focus range and it's completely destroyed the shot. Let me just show you how the Leica SL2 does this with the new firmware upgrade. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just show you where it is in the menus. And if we go into the menus and we want the focusing, which is the first one there, and we want to change it to follow focus. And we've got these various options here. First of all, start follow focus with recording. I've got turned off. That means that the focus change will start as soon as you press the shutter button to record. Now that's not what I want to do. I want to actually let it start rolling, make sure everything's working, and then hit the follow focus button, as I'll show you in a minute, to actually change the focus point. So I want to time it at my own pace. So leave that off. You can change the follow focus speed from very low to very high. I've got a little bit more to say about that later, so let's just leave that on medium for the minute. And then when you come out of focus mode, which focus mode does it go to next? And I have that set to manual focus, but you can choose any of the other focusing modes for it to default to when you turn it off. Manual focus suits my purposes. So rather than go through all of this with nothing particular in front of the camera, I'm just going to step outside onto my deck and just show you how you set up the focus points and how you actually record, and then show you what the results look like at the end. Let's have a look at how we would set up a basic focus pull. I'll use this tree fern that's in my garden, and what we're going to do now is we're going to go into menu and we're going to go to manual focus, and then follow focus. This gives you a different screen. And you get these buttons here, a focusing scale, a button which removes the menus, just in case you want to compose, and a start which is grayed out, and an exit which we'll come to later. So the first thing we want to do is set our starting position. So we tap position 1. I'm going to leave that set to 0 settings, so tick that. Now I'm going to focus very critically on that fern, and you can do that in manual focus, there. And you can move the view around using the joystick as usual. Then when you're happy, tick that. So that's position 1 set. Now position 2 is going to be a defocused position. So we'll leave that on 0 seconds, I should say. And then when it comes to focusing, I'm going to defocus it towards me, so that it's focusing away from the nearest position to the subject, and then it will stop. So now we tick that and we're done. So in position 0, that is the shot we're going to see, defocused. And in position 1, if I tap the screen now, that focus point you should see very slowly moving Now I've got the focus speed set to very slow, and there's a good reason for that, because I can speed things up easily in post, but I can't slow them down easily. So rather than shoot at the speed that you want, shoot it a little bit slower, and you'll find that if you want to make it quicker, a bit more snappy, you can do that easily in post, but you can't do the opposite. So if it's too fast and you want to slow it down, you'll find that it goes all choppy. Once we're happy with that, I'm going to defocus it. Then I'm going to start the recording. And this is the reason I've got it at 0 seconds, is I'm going to press these buttons to control the focusing. So I'm going to start the recording now. Give it a couple of seconds, and then I'm going to tap very gently, because I don't want to wobble the camera, on position 1, and it will slowly focus towards that fern and snap into that precise position that I set earlier. Then I will leave it at that position for a few seconds to get some actual footage recorded of it. Never shoot less than you think you need, always shoot a bit more than you think you need. Then if I want to, I can defocus it. Same thing apply. This is just to give myself options later in case I want it. I'm here now, pixels are free, so just record every option that you think you can possibly think of. And then when that's had a few seconds to record, I can simply stop recording. Now if I hit exit, I'll come out of this mode into manual focus. Now, I didn't mention the start button before, and the reason for the start button is you can program these buttons to wait for a certain number of seconds. You can do that by choosing the focus point. In this case, the second one is chosen. Hit the Tools button and change that to, let's say, 3 seconds, and hit the tick. The focus doesn't need to change, hit the tick again. Now, when I go from one to the other, it will count down very, very slowly from one to the next. Not going to the first one, because that's on 0 seconds, but it's more on the number of seconds attached to that focusing point. It's a little bit counterintuitive. So now it's there. As soon as I hit start, and I'm going to record, if I hit start now, you'll see that this now counts down to 1, 0, and then starts to focus, or defocus in this particular case. And then leave it there, and then when you're ready, you can either tap the shutter button to stop recording or hit the exit button. So that gives you the option to only have to press the screen once when you start, just in case you might wobble the camera. Now I'm using the 90 to 280 lens here, so there's a very strong risk of me wobbling the camera, and that's when the programming of the times would come into play. Personally, it's another step that I don't really need. As long as I'm very, very careful as I tap the screen, all should be well. One of my mantras when I teach video work is, if you can't do something well, don't do it at all. And a focus pull has been something that I've always said, try not to do that, because if you miss that focus and rack it back and forwards a little bit, it's a dead giveaway, and it's so distracting for the viewer. You cannot get away with it. So this feature in the SL2-S actually allows me to get it right first time, every time, so it's well worth using. My name is Nick Rains. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll speak to you again real soon.